Hello everyone. Welcome to the last meditation in this series on loving others. Today's practice will help you to examine how you communicate with others and what you can do to get your message and meaning across more effectively. Because one way we can love the people around us is to be mindful and intentional in how we express ourselves. And of course, as usual, this practice is based on the content in the podcast that was posted on Wednesday. So you may want to go back and watch that first if you haven't already. And there's a link on screen that you can use to get to that video. So let's begin in stillness. Deepen your breathing. Feel grounded in your space and in your body. And take a moment to prepare for the meditation ahead. If you have a candle, then you can light it now as a way to focus and as an act of transitioning into your meditation. And now take a few moments to think about how you communicate with others. Think back over a few interactions from the last while and reflect in silence for a minute or two on what you feel you do well when you speak to others. And then when you're ready, reflect for a minute or two in silence on what you feel you could do better. Finally, remember a time when you had an easy, creative, and energizing conversation with someone, and take note of anything that helped to make that conversation so good. As we move into a more intentional meditation now, bring to mind a recent interaction with someone. It can be a loved one or a stranger, doesn't matter. In a few moments, you'll spend some time in silent reflection. Begin by letting the conversation play out in your mind. Observe the ebb and flow of the words. And consider whether the communication was meaningful, helpful, and life-giving or not. Take a few moments to focus on your side of the conversation. Try to remember the words you used, your tone of voice, your facial expressions and gestures. All of these things are your packaging of your communication. And so reflect on how effective that packaging was. Did it match the meaning you were trying to convey? Is there anything you could have changed to communicate better? Finally, think about how your own values and perceptions influenced what you said and how you said it. Did you find yourself downplaying something because of past painful experiences? Were there any times when you became a bit more forceful than you needed to be because of your need to be heard? Did you rush through saying something because you weren't sure how it would be received? And finally, think about the environment in which the conversation happened. Was it conducive to good interaction? Or was there too much noise that got in the way? Spend some time now immersing yourself in reflecting on this conversation. Now shift your focus to the other person in your conversation. Notice how they received your message. Try to remember their immediate response and consider whether it was positive or not. What signs were there that they had received, decoded, and interpreted your meaning accurately? Were you aware of anything in the environment or in them that hindered your message getting through? Try to remember what they said in return and whether that connected well with what you'd said or if it felt out of sync in some way. What can you learn from reflecting on the process of communication in this way? Spend some time now in silence to reflect on these thoughts. Finally, consider the different languages we bring to our conversations. Identify any times in this interaction when the language of the body, of power or action was spoken. Notice whether it was you or the other person who used this language. Do the same for the language of the heart, of feeling, and the language of the mind or meaning. What language was dominant in your conversation? Notice any thoughts or feelings that arise in the light of this observation. Take note of what your dominant language was and what the dominant language of the other person was. Did your languages align, or were you speaking different languages? How did that affect the communication? Imagine how the conversation may have been different if you had adopted a different language, and whether that would have helped or hindered your conversation. Finally, take note of any new insights or learnings that arise in the silence as you meditate on the dynamics, rhythms, and outcomes of your conversation. And now, as we begin to bring this meditation to a close, I encourage you to take a few more moments to journal any insights, questions, thoughts, and commitments that stood out for you during this meditation. And the following 3 questions may be helpful. Use them or don't, depending on what works for you. But they may help you to focus your thinking as you do this journaling. What encourages or inspires you? What challenges you or brings discomfort? What will you commit to doing? Now, as we close this meditation, I encourage you to return each day to these thoughts, to these insights, to what you've experienced, what stood out for you in the meditation. Light your candle. Take some time to center yourself and then reflect on your journal and spend a bit more time going into a deeper sense of awareness around the things you've noted there. These 2 questions can help you with that work. The first one is, How have you chosen to be more intentional about your communication today? And the second one is, how have you been careless or unintentional in your communication today? Becoming aware of how we communicate and being more intentional about expressing our meaning well are deeply loving practices in our relationships with others. And when we make it a spiritual practice to be mindful and intentional in our communication, we become a little better each day at communicating clearly, effectively, and creatively with those around us. Thank you for giving your time and attention to share this meditation. I hope you'll take it into the rest of your week and that it will help you as you seek to love the people in your life. See you next time.